Good afternoon. Welcome to another Rayleigh Baptist Church online update. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done an update. Apologies for that. We had every intention of doing it and circumstances overtook, and so this is the first time we've done one for a couple of weeks. But it's great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us for this. We have a little bit more to share this week as a result of no updates the last couple of weeks. So I want to share with you a little bit about the church meeting that was scheduled for Monday. I want to talk about the BMS action team and how you can join George on Sunday. I want to talk about the teaching series as we come to an end of our current series. And I want to talk to you a little bit about an update on lockdown as well. So the first thing to say is about the church meeting. If you are a church member, you will know that we were scheduled to have a meeting on Monday. Unfortunately, you won't be surprised to hear, but unfortunately we can't meet on Monday. And so we have postponed that meeting. And assuming that lockdown allows us to, we will aim to meet our next scheduled meeting, which is in September. Full details have been sent out to you of the reasoning behind that and the way forward. So if you're a church member, you should have received that by email, or if you don't receive email, a paper copy should be delivered to you in the next day or two. If you've not received that information, please contact reception and we will put that right. Last Sunday in our morning service online, we shared with you a video update from the BMS action team from Mozambique. And we sent George to the action team adventure last September. It was great to have an update from him and from the team this weekend. And George would love to let you know that he'll be speaking at the Mega Centre New Expression meeting on Sunday evening from 5 o'clock via Zoom. And if you are able to, and if you would like to, then he would love to have you join him for that, to hear a little bit more about his adventure and the adventure of the team. The access details for the Zoom meeting have been emailed to you along with this update. If you found this update via the internet, via Facebook or YouTube or some other way, please get in contact with Scott Williamson and he will pass on the Zoom access details that you need. This weekend we continue our Faith for Life's Journey series, and this week we're looking at faith to give it all up, looking at the stories in Genesis chapter 22 and 1 to 19. Please have a read of that first part of the chapter of Genesis 22 before the service begins. And this weekend is a communion service, so please come prepared, bring some bread and some wine or some juice so you can join in if you would like to do so. Next week we conclude our series with Faith to Finish Well, and we'd like to include some testimonies in that service, testimonies of how God has been speaking to you, challenging you on this journey over these last few weeks. How has God been working in you and through you during lockdown? But also your experiences more generally of putting your faith and your trust in God. How has that worked out for you? What's that looked like? What have the challenges been? What have the lessons been for you? So if you'd like to be involved in that, if you would love to share something of your testimony of faith in God, then would you contact Stuart in the early part of next week, and we'd love to have you involved in the service. And now for an update on lockdown. You will know that lockdown is an ever-changing situation with ever-changing guidelines and advice, and sometimes it can be a struggle to keep up with all of those. But we are grateful for all of that, and we're so thankful that lockdown is being eased slowly in phases. But we recognise that that's not for everybody either. So we each need to make some personal decisions regarding the government advice and guidelines and our own personal situations. But as a leadership team, we have decisions to make as well on behalf of the church fellowship. And we do understand, we know that it's frustrating when the answer that you receive to most questions is, we don't know at the moment. And we share that frustration too, because the answers that we receive to many questions we ask is, well, we don't know at the moment. So whilst we don't have all the answers yet, we thought that it would be helpful to outline some of the principles that we will be using as we move forward and as we seek to make decisions for us as a fellowship. And the first thing to say is that we think that language is really important. So we want to use the language of regathering rather than reopening. To speak of the church as reopening is wrong, because the church is very much open and active and has been through lockdown, because the church is us. The church is the people of God. There will be a time to reopen the building, and that will be right. But we would much rather use the language of regathering as the church. And we hope that you will use the same language as well. Now, it's a particularly complicated situation for the church, with some really complex decisions to be made as we plan to regather and what that looks like. But we wanted to let you know some of the principles that we will be using and applying to help us as we plan for the way forward. So the first one is that safety is our main priority. We have our own personal practice of social distancing and hygiene, which we need to keep in place, of course. But we have to consider the safety of everyone, of members, of staff and visitors, as we think about how we can regather. So safety is the number one priority. And if something is not thought to be safe, then it will not happen. The second is related to that, and that we will follow the government guidelines. We've done this all along so far, and we will continue to do so. But you will understand that it's an ever-changing situation, and we will respond to changes as they are made. But we will use these principles that I'm outlining as our guide in making any decisions. But we want to remind you that obviously there are personal decisions for you to make as well. You need to consider what is best for you in your particular situation and in your family circumstance. We would encourage you to gather where possible, to connect and to contact one another, but only to do so if you are happy, if you are comfortable, and if you feel safe. So if that is the case, if you do feel happy to gather with 5 extra people in your garden, or if you fancy meeting a couple of people at the park to talk or to pray, then absolutely do that, provided you are comfortable with that. So we will follow the government guidelines, and we would absolutely encourage you to do the same too. And then the final thing really is that regathering is important. It's going to happen. The question is when and how. But because regathering is important doesn't mean that we should do it straight away. Now, we know that's hard, and we do understand that that may be the desire of our hearts, but we don't have to gather as soon as we can. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, Paul says that all things are lawful, but he reminds his listeners that not everything is beneficial. Now, Paul is addressing a very different issue at the time, but it's an important principle that just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. So regathering is absolutely important, but actually we will be considering the quality of our regathering as well. If we're permitted to regather, but we have to keep socially distant, that we're perhaps not allowed to sing because we may be spreading particles as we do so, if we have to have a one-way system in and out and around the church, and if we're not able to chat over coffee, the question is about the quality of that gathering. And if the quality of that gathering is not going to be what we expect it to be, what we would like it to be, if it's not going to be helpful, then we need to think about whether we regather at all in those circumstances. And if we are permitted to gather but many are still shielding, then they will be excluded from our gathering. And that's something that we need to consider as a church leadership, but we as a church fellowship need to consider as well. So in those initial circumstances, even when the government say it's okay for churches to gather in certain circumstances, it might be better for us to continue to gather online for a time. So we'll be considering not just the practicalities of gathering and the safety of gathering, but actually the quality of the gathering that we can have as well. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise to you that it will be the trustees who make those decisions, as they carry the responsibility of running the church and of keeping it safe and functioning well. But please know that we don't make these decisions in isolation. We receive advice and guidance from the Baptist Union and from the Charity Commission, just to mention two. But we're also happy, of course, to hear from you. We want to hear what you as members, as a part of the fellowship, what you think is right and is safe and when. So just a quick recap then. Language is important, and we want to use the language of regathering as a church and not reopening. We will reopen the building, but we regather as the church, because the church, the body of Christ, is alive and well and open and active. So we want to talk about regathering rather than reopening. And we will use safety as our guiding priority and our guiding principle. If something is safe, then we will consider whether we go ahead and do it. If something is unsafe, we absolutely will not do it. And in making that decision, we will follow government guidelines. We are not experts in any of this. We have to rely on the advice of others. And so we will follow government advice and guidelines. And then finally, we will consider the quality of any gathering as we move forward, because the quality of our gathering is as important as the act of gathering together. So if you've made it this far, if you've been listening so far, then well done. Thank you for taking the time to persist with this and to listen and to watch. And we want to take the opportunity again to thank everybody who is getting involved in our online services, whether you are joining us for the services and watching or listening along, whether you're joining in with the chat, or whether you're actually involved in the production of the services and you're sharing pictures or videos of what you've been doing through the week, or whether it's been doing the Bible readings, or maybe you're part of the worship team, and particularly those who have stepped in and stepped up more recently and got involved in a bigger way. We just want to thank you. We're so grateful for your contributions, and we're so encouraged when others notice them and comment on them and encourage us by saying how well they've gone. And if you'd like to get involved in some way, then please just contact reception and let us know. Tell us how it is that you'd like to get involved, what you think you have to offer, and we would love to help get you plugged in to all that is going on. So we hope that you have been blessed and encouraged this week, and we also hope that you have been a blessing and an encouragement to others this week. And we look forward to gathering with you all on Sunday, however we do that, whether it's online, live, whether it's on the telephone, or whether you're watching again later. We just look forward to gathering with you in any way that we can. So God bless you and have a good couple of days. We'll see you on Sunday.